Salvete discipuli, hoc est ludus Latinus longinquus, or Latin distance learning. Today we're going to review Īnfīnītīvī, or if you prefer, Anglice, infinitives. First we're going to review how to form these for all of our regular verbs. Then we're going to talk about some of the different circumstances in which we can use an infinitivus. So first off, remember that we've got duo Īnfīnītīvī. Primum, infinitivum activum, which is going to mean in English roughly to verb. And the infinitivus passivus, passive, which is going to mean to get verb. So again, with an active meaning to verb, a passive meaning to get verb. The active infinitive, infinitivus activus, is pretty straightforward to form because it's already given to you. When I give you a verb and you have those two principal parts, like amo, amare, habeo, habere, etc., this will be the second one of those. You'll notice they almost always end with re. So here I've got an example for each conjugation. Amare, to love. Habere, second conjugation, to have. Ponere, to put. Capere, to catch. And audire, to hear. You notice that since these are all regular verbs, they all end with that re, which is how we're going to be able to tell that we have an infinitive here. Now to make them passive, instead of saying to love, we want to say to get loved. Or instead of saying to have, to get had. What we're usually going to do is just take that last E and change it to a long I. So, amare, to love, becomes amari, to get loved. Similarly, habere, to have, becomes haberi, to get had. And audire, to hear, becomes audiri, to get heard. Now, like with many other things, the trick is going to be with the third and third IO conjugation verbs. With these ones, instead of just changing that last E, we actually remove the whole ERE at the end there and replace that with a long I. So, ponere, to put, becomes poni, to get put. And capere, to catch, becomes capi, to get caught. Not caperi, not poneri, but just poni and capi. So we lose that whole ERE on those guys. So at this point, and this is something you should be familiar with, try practicing this a bit at home with some verbs, Here, this is all the forms that we've learned for verbs so far. So we've got the present tense all the way through. Timeo, I fear. Times, you fear. Timet, he fears. And then the plural, timemus, timetis, and timent. We also talked about passives, getting feared for the third person. So timetur, he gets feared. And timentur, they get feared. Again, we can also tell someone, hey, fear me. Time. Or if we're talking multiple people, we add that te at the end, timete. In addition to these forms, we can also add our infinitives down here. Timere, to fear, just our second principal part that's given to you. And then timeri, forming it the way that I just explained, where mostly we're taking that last E and changing it to an I. Alright, now let's take a look at some of the different ways that we can use these infinitives. So there are two main ways in which we use infinitives in Latin. The first one is one that we've already seen before in previous chapters, and that's to complete the meaning of certain verbs. The big ones you're going to see this with are possum, volo, audeo, things like that. And often in English we use an infinitive with these two. I am able to learn. You do not want to study, for example. And in Latin we use infinitives for those also. So let's take a look at a couple examples here. We're going to fill in each of these lacunae, blanks, with a verbum latinum in the infinitive. So, first up, Julia blank non potest. Julia non potest. Well, she can't what? What can't she do? She is not able cantare fortasse. Julia cantare non potest. And notice that we use cantare. She's not able to sing. Next up, discipulus apuella blank vult. Discipulus vult. He wants something. He wants to... Now notice we've got apuella, by the girl. So maybe we're going to need not an infinitivus activus, but a passivus infinitivus. Maybe discipulus apuella amari vult. Notice again, using an infinitive to complete that vult. He wants something. He wants to be loved in this case. Next up, Marcus arborem blank non audet. He doesn't dare to. He doesn't take his chances to do what? Ascendere arborem. ascendere. Again, the infinitive there, because he does not dare to climb it. And then this last example, magister discipulos improbos blank iubet. Magister iubet. He's ordering these discipuli improbi. I know this is a very unfamiliar situation for all of you. Magister iubet discipulos improbos to do something. Probably not clamare. Probably not plorare or currere. Probably something more along the lines of tacere. Magister discipulos improbos tacere iubet. So notice in all of these, we're using this infinitive, but because there's another verb here, potest, vult, audet, iubet, that needs us to have something else there to complete it. Just like in English, if we just said, Julia is not able, that would feel incomplete. Now the second major use of the infinitives, which is a bit trickier, is the one that we're really focusing on in this chapter. So let's take a look at that. Now this one is when we're telling what somebody sees, says, or thinks. And it could be what they hear also, but this is something that somebody perceives that we want to convey that. So, quintus Juliam blank videt. Now, we could have this sentence without the blank filled in. Quintus Juliam videt. He sees Julia. But maybe we want to be more specific than that. Not only does he see her, but he sees her doing something. Let's see. Maybe he sees her pulsari. Does that ring any bells from an earlier chapter? Pulsari. He sees her literally to get hit. In English, we'll often use an ing ending on these kind of in these kind of situations. Quintus sees Julia getting hit, but in Latin we'll use the infinitive. In Latin we'll literally say Quintus sees Julia to get hit. All right, now the next one. Medicus puerum blank dicit. He says the boy to do something. He says that the boy is doing something. What is it? Well, if we're talking about Quintus here, remember, Quintus cadit ex arbore, ergo Quintus aegrotat, pes quinti dolet. So we'll have to say, medicus puerum aegrotare dicit. Quintus non est sanus, sed aegrotat. And if the doctor is giving his opinion here, the doctor is saying Quintus to be sick. He's saying that he's sick. This last example here, using potare, to think, to have an opinion, Marcus Quintusque Juliam male blank putant. They think Julia that she does something male, non bene. I think a good verbum to put in hac lacuna is going to be cantare. Non Marcus et Quintus non volunt Juliam cantare audire. So again, in each of these, it's a slightly different situation because each of these sentences, well, certainly the first one, we could have without that infinitive. Quintus sees Julia. But if we use the infinitivus in there, we can expand the meaning a bit. Not only does he see her, but he sees her doing something. All right, so keep an eye out on Jupiter Grades for the assignments that'll get posted. It's going to be like this, filling in the blanks here, using infinitives along with other verbs, either just to complete the meaning of that verb or to convey what somebody sees, thinks, or says. Valete, in the most literal sense, valere, remember, means to be well, to be healthy. So I'll say discipuli valete in proximum.